Long story short, man, I was doing pretty well for myself at that point in life. This materialistic thing or this image is your success. Weak men come in all forms, shapes, sizes, and types.
Welcome to this episode of the Confidence Quotient podcast. I'm your host, Michael Carrillo. Joined with me, co-host Zane Kaufman.
What up?
And a really amazing guest here, Quest Hawk. First of all, probably the coolest name that we've had on the show.
Probably.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't think I've known anybody with a name. It's like you almost create a character on Madden or something, and like, what's the coolest name that I can come up with?
Exactly.
I think Quest Hawk is probably it's got to be up there.
Thank you, man.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Appreciate it.
So Quest is a big time fitness athlete, model. He's one of the original models for ASRV. In a lot of ways, kind of the face of ASRV, at least as far as I was concerned when I first was aware of ASRV. Great brand, has a thriving business, community, family life, but things weren't always that way, right?
No, absolutely not.
So let's dive a little bit into that. First of all, so you live out here in San Diego, just like us, but originally from Minnesota?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So moved out here, like 13, 14 years ago, something like that?
Yeah, 2010.
Okay,
January.
Cool. And initially, like, what brought you out here?
Long story short, man, I was doing pretty well for myself at that point in life. And I just got into like a super dope high rise and stuff like that. And I was a young dude. And I went out on the balcony, I remember, and I could see my old neighborhood. And I was like, is this it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you work this hard to, like, look out at a balcony and be like, that's where I was.
Yeah.
My goals aren't big enough, you know? So I came out here, I visited here, and then New Orleans.
Okay.
And it was just depending on what kind of life I wanted to go after. So I decided, I was like, you know what? I remember I was riding like a beach cruiser. First time I ever had a beach cruiser. We don't have those in Minneapolis. Like, that's just not what we do.
There's no beach out there.
Yeah, there's no beach out there. So I was like, oh, that's cool. I remember listening to like Red Hot Chili Peppers or something like that. And it was like California. It was like the most cliche, but I was like, I love this place. And I decided to come out here, and I was going to do something dramatically different. I got into like the higher echelon tier of like corporate gym America.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and it just wasn't cool for me. I didn't like it. It was like at that time I was training for MMA really hard. Okay. And I was coming in like looking like I was training for MMA pretty hard. And they were like, hey man, like you got to choose. Is it this or that? And at that point I was like, I got goals. I got a family I want to have eventually. Like, all right, I'll put that to the side. Right. I did that for like 2 months. And then I was like, no, I'm done. I really packed up business, quit everything, and was like, just moved out of here like on a whim.
Wow. So initially moved out here to San Diego. I mean, one of your biggest things I know just from speaking with you is you're probably one of the most authentic dudes that we've had on here. Just true to yourself. I mean, obviously, if people look at you, they're like, okay, this dude, like, he doesn't care what other people think. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I'm my own person, and I love that about you, man. So at that point, obviously, we talk a lot about confidence, instilling that in yourself, instilling that in others. Talk us through like the mindset of that. Of now you're in a new place. You've made a pretty serious, drastic decision to chase something as opposed to maybe staying with something that was comfortable. What was your mindset as far as confidence in that place?
Man, it's crazy. I really try to preach to people like just unwavering self-belief and almost like it's an internal battle all the time. When I came out here, I also, I was a young dude that was doing a lot of things. I did not make the right decisions the way I left my career, the way I did everything. I literally packed everything into like this little ass car and was like, all right, I'm just going to drive 36 hours and get over here.
Wow.
And it was like a big shock for, does that make sense?
That's a great thought. I've heard that said too before, where our mindset and the thoughts that enter our minds, it's like if you imagine sitting in a movie theater and there's all these previews that come across the screen and you thoughts enter that sometimes, like you're saying, we don't have control over, and that's the preview. That's the thing that slides up on the screen. But we always have the choice to swipe away from that or just to get it off the screen, and or to fixate on it and to focus on it more. So No, that's a really good point. So when you first came out here, were you super tatted like you are now?
Yeah, I was pretty heavily tatted. I got tatted when I was 15 years old.
Okay.
So
what was the first one? Do you remember which one?
Oh, yeah. I got like the kanji down my biceps, Allen Iverson.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Okay.
But yeah, like Allen Iverson and Travis Barker were like my.
Travis Barker.
Oh, they were everything, man. Like growing up, I was like, yeah. You know what I mean?
Both legends, by the way.
Both legends. And they both did like, like AI brought something different to the game. He stood out. He was like, yeah, I ball, but like, I'm going to. Like, I mean, he started the culture of like, streetwear and professional sports. And then Travis Barker, man, I remember watching an interview with him one day, and it was something that like stuck in my head. And he was like, you know what I love more than anything? You know, like what lets me know I'm successful? And the like interviewer was like, what? He's like, I pull up to like a 5-star restaurant with like a trailer trash, like cut off T-shirt, and I'm eating the exact same thing as everyone else with my tattoos everywhere. And I was like, at like such a young age, I was like, yeah. Like, yeah, that's what I want. Because growing up, especially I was born in the '80s, so like growing up at that time, it's always like the saying like play the game, play the game, play the game. And I'm always like, I remember at a young age always being like, yo, like, just rewrite the game. You know what I mean? Like, no, I don't have to look a certain way, act a certain way, shake your hand and no, man, I'm gonna play my own game.
What do you think instilled that in you? Like, was that like your family was like that, or is just something about you from a young age was like, no, I'm gonna blaze my own trail?
I think so. Like, I grew up with my pops and my moms, and people are always like pops and moms. Okay, so I try to like clarify that. So I was adopted for the first 7 years of my life.
Wow. Okay.
So my understanding was my grandmother and my grandfather were my mom and dad. I didn't really realize till later on that they were my grandparents and that my mom was my actual mom. So she was getting her life together, trying to, get her life together. She was real young when she had me. And he's a preacher. And, he's from the South, Louisiana. My mom's is from Indonesia. So it was just a very traditional household, and in that time too, when he grew up, he was going through a lot of things that I can't even imagine, sit-ins and all kinds of crazy stuff. So when he came over and made it over to Wisconsin, there was a certain mindset that he had, keep your shoes clean, always look a man in his eyes, always shake his hand, but understand that you got to play the game, boy. Like, and that was just something he really instilled in us. And I understood it. I understand now what he was trying to do, but I also understand that the era he grew up in, you couldn't get out of line. Getting out of line meant you might lose your life. Right. So I appreciate what he offered me, but there was always something in my head that was like, what you mean I got to talk a certain way? What do you mean I can't be me? Like it was almost like you're 24/7. You're on your P's and Q's, and I always had like a real wrong taste about that. You know what I mean? And as I got older, I respect him and I love him to death, and I can see why he's like that. But I just so dramatically was different. You know what I mean? I was like, nah, if you're gonna do that, I'm gonna do this, and it got me in a lot of trouble when I was younger. But it was just something. I think some people go through things that make them that way, and then I think some people are born that way. I think I was just kind of born that way. Yeah. And then through life, it just kind of solidified it more like, nah, man, I'm definitely doing a different path.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty shocking that, you're so, anti that way. And then you end up going into corporate and now you're in kind of like a corporate world. Did you ever see like backlash? I mean, obviously you're getting tattooed at, 15. Was there like, when you get in there, into that corporate world, was there kind of maybe some pushback because of the way you look?
I mean, I did everything. Like, so I got tattooed when I was 15. I remember in high school, like junior year, I already had like a full chest piece. Like arms were getting tatted. Like it was funny playing football and people were like, the tattooed one. I'm like, oh, well, obviously it's me. But yeah, when I got into corporate, like I went through everything, dude. I had like a job for a very short stint at Wells Fargo. Wow. And, like, I had to, like, wake up every morning, like, put, like, makeup on my hands and do all that kind of stuff. And then that was, like, a big thing with, like, even when I was working for another couple big gyms that are, like, nationwide gyms, and I was moving up the corporate ladder, there was a lot of pushback. They were like, oh, you're a great trainer. You got the highest sales. Oh, you're a great fitness manager. You got the highest sales. And I'm like, okay, what does it take for me to get to, like, regional.
Yeah.
What does it take for me to get into upper echelon? Well, have you ever thought about laser surgery? And I'm like, no. Why does that matter? My sales crush everyone. And so I definitely went through a lot of pushback. And I think the hardest point was I was always very well-spoken, so that I think that always helped me out a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I think the greatest pushback is when I came out here and I had nothing, I had no family ties. I had nothing, I couldn't get a job anywhere.
Wow.
Like nowhere.
So you moved out here with nothing like lined up for you?
Oh, nothing. I was doing well for myself, and people were like, whoa, you were doing well for yourself in Minneapolis. I was like, yes, I was a kid that was like a high school dropout that decided to go back, got my HSAD or high school equivalency diploma or whatever. Ended up getting hurt for football, so that wasn't going to work out for college ball. And so when I got out here, I realized I look back now and I was like, I was making so many mistakes. It was the first time I was a young man, like making good money. I was like grabbing my boys that I grew up with, like, yeah, let's go to the mall. Yeah, I got you guys. Don't worry, just go get shoes. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea what investment was, savings, taxes. What are you talking about? Yeah, okay, here, this is what I paid there, Yeah. So like when I came out here, it basically crushed me. I went from a comfortable situation to literally coming out here with like nothing. And so I was working as a window washer. Then I was like, and one of my buddies from Minnesota hooked that up for me. Shout out Blaze. And so I was doing that for a little bit. And then I was like, yeah, dude, I can't work for my boy. Like, I love you, but no.
Yeah.
And so I started like just trying to be like, yo, let me just go try to get a job somewhere. I'm talking like Subway.
Wow.
Couldn't get it. I was already pretty heavily tatted at that point. Like I couldn't get it anywhere. And that just only furthered my like, something's off with this game. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm well-spoken. I've run a business. I've run a successful business. Like there's no way I shouldn't be able to like make a sandwich.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like you're getting rejection after rejection and knowing that you're qualified, more than overqualified for these things.
Yeah.
Like how is that shaking your confidence at all?
No and yes. At that time, like more confidence as far as like, damn, did I make too big of a gamble? You know what I mean? But as far as like, I'm going to make it, no, that never wavered. I think people get lost, man. I think, I grew up in a gray area and I keep saying that. I'm going to be the old guy that keeps saying that.
You don't look like it though.
But like everyone wants this image of success. You know what I'm saying? Like this materialistic thing or this image is your success, or like this home or this status or this ranking, that's success. That ain't success, man. Yeah. Success is the journey. Success is like, man, you could push me down in the mud so many times, I can fall on my face. I don't even worry about it anymore. That's success. It's like you get this built-in, I don't know what the word is, but like success to me is when you get to a point when the whole world could turn their back on you and you're still like, I'm good. You know what I mean? That's success.
Yeah.
And so I think just like with that, I think, it's something that I preach with my brand so much is not ever letting that happen. And you will always find, when you have that mentality, you will always find a way out.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. And you talked about it already a little bit, but the radical self-belief, there's a point where you burn the boats, right? Like either you eliminate any kind of plan B, and so you have to make plan A work. And so that's where you start to, I think you become resourceful in a way that you wouldn't have before if there were still other options on the table.
Oh, right? Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, one of my best buds, I go running with him probably 3-4 days a week. We shoot together.
Yeah.
We do all kinds of stuff together. And he actually was the second person to give me a job in California.
Wow. Okay.
So he used to run this big, huge clothing brand, sold it. Now he does makes movies and stuff like that. But he gave me a place. I was very transparent with him. I was like, hey man, I don't really have anywhere to go. Like I'm working with you and I'm trying to always find somewhere to be. And then you're mad at me because I'm coming in at 6:30 in the morning, tired. And he's like, well, what's up with you? I'm like, dude, I didn't find a place to sleep until like 4:30 in the morning. So he's like, cool, like just stay in the warehouse. So I was like screen printing, sleeping in the warehouse.
Yeah.
And he brought me out to this trade show that's called Magic.
Okay.
It's like huge fashion show, fashion trade show. And just kind of circle back why I'm even talking about the story is like, I have these beads that I used to make and like jewelry I used to make. And I was like, hey man, like, do you mind if I just wear my stuff? Like, and he's like, yeah, absolutely. And I was like, these are cool. I feel like these are dope. Like it's different, you know? Mm-hmm. And, we ended up going out there, and that was the first new business that struck for me after not being able to get a job at Subway. Mm-hmm. I got offered like $700 for the chain I was wearing on my neck.
Wow.
And it turned into a full-fledged 2-year business.
Wow.
Selling men's jewelry and making men's jewelry.
Yeah.
So like, it's so radical from what I was doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's what people have to understand. Like, you have to be able to diversify your paths. And if you have self-belief, the path doesn't always necessarily mean you're just going to walk that path. And I think that's something that people have to understand too, is like, have self-belief, be driven and focused and be like, yeah, I'm going to make it. But at the same time, be versatile enough to know that like, maybe this isn't the lane, you know? And I think a lot of athletes go through that, you know, like, okay, this, I'm going to make it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of characteristic traits that make you a great athlete. You can take to other lanes. You 100%. Can take those to other lanes. But if you're just blindly focused and you don't have the versatility to be like, maybe this path was the learning lessons that I needed, but now I need to take what I've learned and bring it to another path, that's where you can cause some damage. Yeah. You know, you got to know when to like play it. You got to know when to sit back on it.
Yeah. And I think, and I'm speaking from experience on this too, like a lot of former athletes sometimes lack that self-awareness to say, hey, let's strip back all the things that made me successful getting to where I was in sports, and let's look at those skills. How can they transfer into the real world, and how can they transfer into making me successful in another lane? So being flexible is huge. And talk about that too, because again, initially you moved out here, you were training for the MMA, you were doing all that kind of stuff, got to a place where you were like living in your car shooting content. Yeah. Like, so talk like how did that happen?
Fun days. So I would say, like, I don't like throwing out the word. I think it's like, sounds so bad, but hey, we're just going to be real.
Let's do it.
I think a lot of people claim I've been homeless before, you know? Staying at your like best friend's house for like 6 months is not
That's
homeless.
not homeless.
Yeah. That's couch surfing.
Right,
you know? I've had and this sounds so weird and people are probably going to come after me, but hey, it makes controversy is publicity, right? I've been homeless out here.
Yeah.
Like genuinely homeless. You know what I mean? And I've couch surfed and I've stayed in the car. And not all in one scenario.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
So it was you can even hear it in my voice. It's like, it's cool. It's like, it's one of those things I went through. It definitely wasn't my proudest moments.
Yeah.
You know, but it was necessary to my story and it built me up. And it's something that like that resiliency is something that I'll be able to teach my son so he'll never go through certain things.
Yeah.
But dude, I can't stay somewhere where I don't feel like it's right for me. And that's in every situation. It doesn't matter if it's a relationship. It doesn't matter if it's friendships. Like if it doesn't feel right, I will literally jump off the cliff, fall flat on my face and be like, all right, let me reclimb a different lane. Wow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I came out here, I wanted to do the MMA. I was like, all right, cool. But like at the end of the day, like, dude, I'm training, but at the same time, I also like, it's hard as hell. I'm not getting no sleep. I'm trying to find a place to be at. You know, I was like, man, this is going to be another couple years before you can even make a dime. You know, you're talking getting paid like at this time, you're getting paid like $250 a show. Yeah. You know, for these little undercards and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, like this isn't going to work for me. Do I really want this? Is this really what I want? And no, it wasn't. Like, you know, deep down, I was like, I enjoyed the martial arts of it. I enjoyed what it brought to the table. But like, nah, I don't want this, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, kind of blast through that. I was here for like a year. I got in some trouble. I made a really stupid decision. and I got in some trouble. But it was out of necessity, like trying to find a place to live.
Wow.
And I did a favor for someone, and it was dumb as hell, and something I learned from very quickly.
Yeah.
Learning lesson, huh?
Super quick learning lesson. Like super quick learning lesson. You know what I mean? And so that kind of like set me a path, and that set me backwards, and I had to, you know, be on my P's and Q's, really just understand what it was. And that was kind of like at that point too, that was also like, that was kind of like the, hey, like if you don't learn how to move intelligently the way you want to move, you're going to ruin your life. You know what I mean? Because it only takes a couple minutes to ruin your life.
Yeah.
How quick are these decisions? Like the decision, hey, I'm going to move to San Diego.
Oh, they were like,
this. Is
like,
it any thought to it, or you're just like, I'm doing that, I'm gone?
See how fast you snapped?
Yeah.
That was it.
That's how I was.
Yeah.
And that's youth. You know what I mean? That's youth, like getting tattooed the way I was, you know, dropping out of high school, like doing all this kind of stuff. It was literally just like, yeah, I'm out. I'm good. I'm out. And like, yeah, there's some qualities to that. You know what I mean? There's some qualities to that, but like, no, dude, like even the thing that like got me in trouble, it was a decision like that. Yeah. Right. Okay. You know?
Right.
And so it's like, you had to, as maturity goes, it's like you have to, like, you can make these decisions that are life altering, but give them the respect and the time to know these are life altering decisions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Period. And I don't care what that is. I don't care if that's quitting a job, starting something, quitting a relationship, whatever it is. You literally have these moments, countless moments in your life where your life is going to change. Period. And if you don't respect that, you're blindsiding yourself. You know what I mean? And you're dealing with so many other things that come off a blind side compared to being like, all right, I'm making this decision consciously.
Yeah.
I've weighed out the pluses and minuses. I know what's coming and what could possibly come, and I'm prepared for all of it. I will always live my life like that. But I will no longer live my life with like split decisions.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's how you have to be. And like now, like looking back on where I was, like, dude, I did every cliche thing. I had a gym here called 677 Fit, super private gym. Again, worked my way all the way up the ladder. Sold my jewelry. I did very well with the jewelry. Like we're talking like going out to Seattle, talking to Nordstrom's, and you know, like again, still super novice kid, 24 years old. Wow. You know what I mean? So, you know, I did that and I was like, nah, this isn't for me. Relationship didn't work out. I was like, man, I'm done with this. Fitness has always been my bread and butter. I'm going back to fitness. Opened a gym, did that for like a year. Totally crumbled that because I made a horrible business partner. But overnight, it was like literally like had that and then was like, no, I'm moving to LA.
Wow.
I'm moving to LA. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something crazy. Moved to LA, sold off everything, took a whole loss. You know, I had a lease on a place. I was like, no, whatever. Just here's the money.
Wow.
You know, and went cliche again. I literally will never forget. Woke up on Sunset Boulevard on a bench.
Wow.
And that was my home for the next 3.5, 4 months.
Oh, wow.
Right across from 24-Hour Fitness. I had the shout out 24-Hour Fitness. I had the grandfather membership, so it was only like $19.99.
There you go.
I was like, yep. So I put all my stuff in the lockers. I would shower every morning. I knew LA was a jungle.
Yeah.
I knew LA was a jungle. So I was like, I don't care. I'm not a punk. I'm scared. Like I slept right on this bench on Sunset Boulevard, right across from 24-Hour Fitness because it was super lit. There was always some type of people moving around. I was like, I'm gonna sleep there. And went and got a crazy, crazy opportunity out there, bro.
Okay.
Like this is what self-belief and like just living your life.
Yeah.
So I always had my booklet on me.
Okay.
And this booklet had like all my designs. It had like my jewelry that I did. It had some of the numbers I've pulled, some of the people that I've sold to.
Yeah.
And it's just something that like for me, it was my resume.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was just my ability to have a resume. Because even then, like I got on social media, I got on Instagram at like 2012, like right when it started.
Right.
Yeah. That's why if you look at my stuff, I have like 3,000 something posts, right? Like I've been in it, but like I was like, I had it and I met some people out there because that was the thing about LA. Everyone's trying to be someone. As long as you're clean and well spoken, you can pretty much get into anything. So I was going to like all these hills parties, going to all this stuff. People had no idea. Hey, you're sleeping on a bench. Yeah, but I was like, cool. I'm gonna keep myself clean. I'm not like, let's be honest here. I got opportunity and I got introduced to a massive like VC.
Okay.
And I got brought out to his house and he was like, hey, like, you know, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm gonna be honest with you. And I think authenticity is always key. I was like, look, man, I'm just trying to make it. I've done really well, crumbled, done really well, crumbled, but this is the life I'm choosing to live. And he's like, well, I have a passion project I've been wanting to do for a while. I have a brand I want to do. And I was like, okay, what's up? Like, I like brands, you know? And he's like, do you have any references of anything you've done? And I was like, well, I got some like photos on Instagram, but like, again, wasn't the most organized person, you know? And I was like, I have this booklet though with everything. Bro, we're talking the first time I meet him. He sees my booklet. He's like, you did all this? These are your designs? And I was like, yeah. He's like, I love it. He's like, where are you living? And I was like, to be honest with you, on a bench. He was like, no way. And I was like, no, seriously, sir. Like, I wake up every morning, I hit the gym, I, shower, I change, I put my stuff in the locker, and I go out and I just try to make connects to, get in a better situation. I'm not like, I don't have any issues. Just I'm crazy. Yeah. Other than the fact I'm crazy. Dude, he gave me $10,000 cash, brought me to his second home, got a car, pulled out the pink slip, no BS, pulled out the pink slip, was like, sign your name to it. And he's like, now let's go find your apartment.
Wow.
24 hours.
Wow.
24 hours. From the time I met him, I was like set. And he was like, well, the apartment's going to take a minute, so just pick a hotel. We'll just put you in the hotel till then.
Wow.
It's like...
That's crazy.
You know, split-second decisions, man.
Split seconds, you know?
But just like continually betting on yourself too, right? And I think that what you said, we kind of slid past it, but it's key. One of the greatest things that we can do, and we're going to talk about some of your mindset stuff around just stoicism and other things kind of down the road here, but you didn't have any problems, issues, addictions, things that were also pulling you away. I mean, like you betting on yourself that much, moving to a new place, being homeless, going out into networks of people that you've never met before, putting your work out there. If you had all that stuff and then you also threw in, you were also struggling with some sort of an addiction, you were also struggling with some other thing, like for a lot of people, they're one decision away or saying no one more time away from being in that position that you were in. And so, I mean, talk a little bit about like, were there ever, I know you had a little bit of trouble with the law, but were there any other things that were like struggles for you on top of just betting on yourself?
Oh, yeah. I'm so happy and blessed to be here. Shout out to my girl, like, love you, Sophie. But
you want to say the camera for her?
love you, Sophie. She really stuck through me because I dealt with manic depressive for pretty much my whole life.
Yeah.
I just now in like the last 4 years have completely conquered that shit.
It's awesome, bro.
Like I figured out how to tap into it and I destroyed that, man. And I think that's what people have to understand. Especially I don't talk openly for people. It's not that I don't care about all people. I can only talk from a man's point of view.
Yeah.
So, for me, I always speak to men. And I'm like, look, you have the ability to destroy, not to change, to absolutely destroy any weakness you have inside you. Any type of thing that brings you down, any type of thing that makes you a weaker person, anything that you wouldn't want your son, to grow up and be like, or anything you wouldn't want your daughter to fall in love with, And I made it my mission to absolutely destroy that human being. And, I at the age of 16, I died. I cut my wrist, 40-some stitches across, thank you to my boy Tom, who just randomly had a feeling, an intuition, and came to my home, kicked in my door. I had barricaded it.
Wow.
Threw me on his shoulder, threw me in I think some girl he was just talking to. Her truck. Traumatic for her, sorry. And brought me to the hospital, and they revived me. Went through an overdose, not on drugs, but on just any pill I could find in the house. OD'd, went through that stint. So like my issue was, as much as I had self-belief, I was instilled with so much self-hate. And that comes from growing up, not with my immediate family, but after my mom got me. I love my mom to death, but she has such a big heart that she wanted to take in anyone and everyone. And I think predators, I think weak men could see that. And so for the next, good majority of my life, I was surrounded by weak men. And weak men prey on weak minds and undeveloped minds. So I was taught a lot of self-hate. And I was taught a lot of physical abuse, and those are things, and that's where the fighting comes in. Like I learned how to fight, and when we went to when I started practice, they're like, "Where'd you train?" Nowhere.
Yeah.
Like
life.
Yeah, life.
Living room.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're pretty talented, kid. And that was the first time I had a real man tell me yo, you're talented. So that kind of is where my whole love for that sport came. But yeah, it was just one of those incidents where it was I tell people there's not too many rated R movies out there that could depict what I've lived through as a young man.
Wow.
You know what I mean? But I wouldn't change it first.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think I had to battle with myself, and it wasn't drugs. It wasn't alcohol. It wasn't anything like that. It was just, I literally was walking around with the only person that wanted to destroy me. And I just allowed him to live. You know what I'm saying? I allowed him to live. Until
so you were struggling with that. Just going back to the story now, you're in a place, obviously, your new apartment, you got 10 grand in your pocket, you've got a new car. So these are all things that you were struggling with at that time as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. Fitness for me was a back and forth, but fitness for me wasn't always healthy. It was my way of just punishing myself, socially acceptable.
Yeah.
Right. It was socially, you're okay, you're in the gym for 4 hours. You're running, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing not lifting and sitting on my, no, 4 hours of just to pain. You know what I mean? And then being nah, now I'm going to go in the sauna and I'm going to shadow box for the next half an hour straight, even though I'm depleted of everything. It was not about any type of aesthetic. It was not about oh, this is good. Yeah. This is good training. Yeah. No, this is horrible. I'm punishing, I'm brutalizing myself.
Yeah.
But it was much more socially acceptable than the extremes I had done back in school and the extremes I had done as a young man.
Right. Right. What do you think that comes from? Is that you're perfectionist, you want so much for yourself that it's you're just almost just trying to beat yourself into being perfect? What do you think that was?
No, that comes from weak men. Straight up. That comes from weak men. I have, my mom will never forget it. And she came down to my room one day and I had a complete manic episode. Completely manic. And I had wrote everything that every one of those weak men had ever said to me on my walls. The entire ceiling. Just manic break. And that lived in my head, man. It lived in my head every time. I was always super gifted athlete. I was never going to amount to anything athletically because my brain. If you were just talking physically, we're good.
Yeah.
Mentally, I couldn't handle any type of failure because failure to me automatically meant punishment. And it terrified me. And it wasn't normal punishment.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it was instilled in me, man. It was instilled in me that I was weak. I was a loser. I was nothing. I was going to be nothing. And when you're a young man and you are being physically and mentally brutalized over and 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 over again, you just don't have that. It's like
you start to believe it.
You believe it. You're like, I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
Like, this is who I am, you know?
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know who to thank. You know, I'm so happy that there's at least some type of little voice in my head that was like, yo, don't ever give up, bro. Like, stay believing in yourself. Because there were definitely times, like, obviously, if you go to that level where you want to take your life, that's when, like, your coping mechanism it doesn't outweigh your emotional. You know, like, and once you lose that, that's when you just don't care about anything anymore.
Yeah.
So that was the big deal for me, bro. It was like, I had to break free of what they were trying to preach to me and what they were trying to tell me.
Right. So what did it do for you then, now being in LA, to have someone that believed in you, that was like, thought you were super talented, thought that you did have something to bring to the table? Like, what did that do for you at that point?
I thought it was amazing. It's always a catch-22.
Yeah.
But I thought it was amazing. But again, weak men come in all forms, shapes, sizes, and tactics. Keyword, tactics. I think I so desperately wanted a father figure that, you know, I had football coaches like, boom, you tell me to be here at 5, I'm here at 4. Running last before everyone. That's something that, like, you can ask anyone that ever knew me. That was always there. And I think that didn't really stem from necessarily wanting to do great, because if that were the case, I would have did great in school. I would have did great, and you know what I mean. But it was whenever there was a man that gave me any type of, like, positive
reinforcement, almost. Yeah,
it was like, boom, you're the guy I'm trying to impress. Cool, you're a coach. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to be the best player that you are for you. Oh, cool, you want to invest in me? Cool. I'm here all day. I'll answer the phone at 3:00 in the morning. You want me to draft up 10 papers for you? Deal. Here's 10 designs. Oh, you don't like those? You want 20? Here's 20.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So at that point it was great. But now that I'm older, I can also understand that you have men that will try to beat you into submission. You have men that will try to finesse you. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so it was a great moment at that time until it wasn't no more. You know, until you start realizing numbers and you're like,
and there's some strings attached to certain things.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Right.
You start realizing, like, you know, that saying, when it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. Well,
right.
What are you not asking?
What are you not asking?
Yeah. There's no free lunch. So now you're in LA. You're maybe starting to think, or maybe you're starting to realize at this point, hey, there's some things not right about this situation.
Yep.
So where do you go from there?
I ended up coming back to San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah, I ended up coming back to San Diego. It just wasn't working for me. Also, the lifestyle there, it just wasn't working for me. I had some opportunities up there.
Yeah.
With people that, when I was designing, I was in the music industry. Like, I wasn't in the music industry, but I was, like, you know, branding people. Working in it. And there's some crazy things up there. They're like, you got the look, kid.
Yeah.
You know, okay, I like the way but we want you to da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like,
right.
No.
Yeah.
No. I'm out.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah.
You know, I saw some crazy.
I bet.
So
I bet.
I was like, you know, this whole LA thing ain't for me, yo.
Yeah.
It just ain't. So I got to go a different path. So I came back down to San Diego. And that was basically, again, just kind of another. As I talk about it, sometimes I'm like, damn, dude, how many times did you need to, like, blow up your world? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I came back down to San Diego, and I was just, again, just trying to get my feet.
Yeah.
And I ended up having, like, this itty bitty little apartment that I finally got in. And I was just kind of making headway of doing that. And, Yeah, it was like, when I say small, I mean like my entire place was like this size.
Oh my gosh.
Like my entire place.
Yeah, it was big.
It's a half a studio.
Yeah, it was like, oh my God, like bathroom, kitchen, like, okay.
Yeah.
But I loved it. You know, I loved
yeah.
it. I was like, oh, it's mine. I'm by myself. And so I was just kind of going back to fitness. That's kind of always been my safe haven. You know what I mean? I went back to fitness. I started training again. I know training.
Yeah.
You know, I live this. Like, I don't just, I know everyone and their mom's a trainer these days because they can train them, but like, no, dude, I grew up training, whether you're an athlete, whether you're, you know, a busy businessman, I know how to train you.
Right.
I know how to train myself, but I know how to train you. You know, so that was my bread and butter. So I started training. You know, I did the couch surfing again at that point. And that's when the car, I made the radical decision to do the car thing with one of my best friends. Shout out Talon. I was just like, dude, like, I saw what these guys were doing in the music industry.
Yeah.
I was like, no offense, dude, you're kind of lame. You're kind of corny.
Corny, yeah.
Oh, but we're going to put these shoes on you. We're going to dress you like this. We're going to tell you to say this. You like your hair like blonde? Nah. Survey says girls are going to like you with black hair more. Okay. Next day you show up, you got black hair. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
I didn't know what this was.
Yeah.
And someone put me on game and they're like, well, that's like it's a U brand. I'm like, what? Like, it's a U brand. Like, you're the brand, you. Like, same way Coca-Cola, same way, like, each one of these artists is a brand.
Yeah.
And we make them the best brand version of themselves, and then we brand them, and then we put their image, their likeliness, everything from, when I say, like, everything, I mean, like, even certain words that they had to say on camera so often because it was part of a sponsorship deal.
Right.
That was the first time I was like, whoa.
It's like Owen Wilson saying, wow, you know?
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, that's what it is? Okay. So when I came back here, I was like, dude, I'm going to brand myself.
Wow.
And that's when I really started picking up the camera and, like, shooting everything with my phone. Like, boom, fitness this, fitness that. Oh, these exercises. Oh, this. And I was already at the gym all day, every day anyway. So I was like, screw it. I'm just going to, like, put my phone on a tripod and show the workouts I'm doing. And then I, you know, bless Talon because he was like, dude, you really got something, bro. I do believe in you. He's from LA. So he grew up around that. He's born and bred out of there, you know? So he's like, no, dude, like, yeah, you can do this.
Yeah.
So he was like, dude, let's film every day. I was staying with a ex-girlfriend at that time, and he moved in, and like a month later we got kicked out because I was training in the apartment. I guess you're not supposed to be able to do that. Okay. And so we did that, and he was like, what do you want to do? He's like, I can go back to LA, or, like, you know, do you want to try to get a place together? I'm like, bro, I still ain't got money like that to really get a place together, right? And we just kind of gambled, and we were like, yo, let's just, like, rock it out in the cars, bro. Let's just rock it out in the cars, and let's just shoot all the time. Let's just keep shooting all the time.
Was there, like, a goal to that? Like, hey, if we do this enough, maybe we'll start to get recognized by brands. Because, I mean, at this point, there's no influencers really, influencer marketing.
This is like the start of Instagram.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken,
this is like, it's funny because I always have to get a timeline. So I didn't get the little mini itty bitty apartment till after we had been staying in our cars. And we were staying in our cars for 6 months.
Wow.
So then that money was helping me brand the training. You know what I mean? And then that's what allowed me to get into, like, the little mini apartment.
Yeah.
And so there wasn't necessarily a goal. It was just more like, I see how people are doing it. And at this point, this is when, like, the industry was like promo videos.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, everything was just kind of like, put on a pair of glasses, slow-mo, like, walk, you know, like, it was just kind of like, look at me era.
Right.
Like some B-roll type stuff.
Yeah, all B-roll basically. And so, like, we were just like, dude, I mean, just shoot everything. Like, just shoot everything. And I mean, we were shooting like me pumping gas and like, you know, like pumping gas and sitting on the car, like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like just anything. And it wasn't necessarily, I didn't really know how to monetize it yet, but I knew that it had to be shot. I knew that we needed the content. And I saw like being up in LA, that's all they were doing. They were shooting. So I was like, all right. And it was actually like out of all the stuff we shot all these, like we were sneaking in like random places, like, dude, this would be sick. Let's do ball slams here. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like just doing the most random stuff. And then one day Town like was like, hey bro, why don't you just sit in front of the mic and talk? And I was like, what? And he was like, dude, he's like, I get it, but like, I know you as a personal friend now. I've heard your story. He's like, why don't you just like sit and I'll just put the camera on a tripod and just talk, bro. And I did. And I talked about like my fears. I talked about like my greatest fear is like waking up one day and realizing that like I had all the talent in the world and I squandered it, you know? And like, I just kind of like spoke super free to the camera. I got a call a week later from one of the guys at ASRV.
Wow. So where were you like putting this on YouTube or something?
I put it on Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah. So I gambled everything. I won't spend that much time on it, but I gambled everything on Instagram.
Okay.
Because there was YouTube, and might have been a slight mistake, but that's okay. You know, like what it is.
There's time. There's still time.
It took a little time, but no, I was like, man, I heard about Instagram, and I was like, dude, Instagram. I'm telling you, the way this like platform's moving, like I feel it. You know.
Well, like, it worked because ASRV.
Well, I mean, it definitely worked. In my life, I just think it would have probably maybe happened a little faster, but no, you know. But I put it on Instagram. Just my Instagram, dude. Like I tell anyone, like do a scroll challenge. Yeah. Go through it. Like I put everything on Instagram. You know what I mean? And he saw it, and I thought it was bullshit. He was like, "Hey, this is Ryan from ASRV. We saw your video, and we really liked the way that you like really live this, like, what do you call it, urban training?" And I was like, "Yeah." Because I don't go to the gym. I'm like, we were at this time, we're like setting up TRXs on like train stations. Oh, wow. On the chain link fences. Yeah. And like now everyone's an urban trainer. Yeah. But like, yeah, we were authentically doing this. You know what I mean? And he was like, yeah, we really like it. But honestly, we love like how transparent you were. Like that's what we're looking for in our athletes. You know what I mean? And I was like, yeah, okay. You know, I'm like, yeah all right. Because, like, some of the people they've worked with already at that time, right, at, like, the infancy of their brand, like, who is Elijah? Like, one of the original Instagram major models. I was like, yeah, okay, you guys are hitting me. Sure. And he was like, hey, man, hit me up, like, a week later, like, hey, just following up with you. Are you interested in shooting with us? And I was like, are you serious? Is this really him? And I'm, like, scoping it. I'm like.
So you, like, left him on red for, like, a week?
For, like, a week, bro. I was like, yeah, okay, bro. And like literally hit me back up, and I was like, "Oh, this is really this is them." Yeah. And they gave me a basically a trial video, Okay. So I went out to, it's like I think it was like Costa Mesa, like a Costa Mesa gym, and I showed up, and it was like, one of their main guys that had been with the company forever, Gordon, and then Neil, who's still with the company. Basically anything you see as far as like the build outs, all that kind of stuff, all the crazy lookbooks, that's Neil. He's the mastermind behind building all that, doing all that. So I show up and I'm like thinking it's like, you know, going to be this massive thing. It's just Neil and Gordon. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, what's up? And they're like, so do you know what kind of workout you're going to do today? And I'm like, no, I'm nervous as fuck. But And they're like, look, we're just going to run the camera. Just do your thing.
Just get a workout in.
We did a one take, hour and something minutes. It was like a one take. Mm-hmm. They did not turn off the camera. And like afterwards they were like, bro, we're telling JB, which is the owner of it. They're like, bro, you didn't stop. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, was I supposed to? And he was like, I mean, we were waiting for you, but this is gold. We've never shot like this before. Like, it's authentic. It's real. Like, you did not stop. And that was basically the set off, man.
What'd you hit that day?
Huh?
What were you hitting that day?
Oh, everything, bro. It was
full body.
Full. So I climbed a rope. I did like sled pulls. I was doing like cleans, jerks. I mean, anything I could get my hands on. And that, I mean, that was, to me, that's kind of it's a trial, right? Yeah. It's like a gift because like I've been around this game for so long.
Yeah.
That like you can basically bring me in the smallest area and I'll pull out moves that people are like, yo, how do you think of this? And I'm like, dude, like, this is what I did for fun. Some people rode bikes. Some people like skateboarded. Some people played video games. Fitness was always my thing. It was just what I did for fun. And sometimes not fun, but I always did it. You know what I mean? And so I just, anything that was I could see, like it was, you know, for an hour or something, you're like, okay, I'm tired. Oh, there's something else there. Like, And so we just went with it. And that completely altered my life.
I got to imagine it's, you know, you doing all of those one-off workouts.
Yeah.
Kind of caught their eye. It's not like you're hitting back and buys. You know what I mean? Like you're not going, oh, I'm just going to do a back workout.
No, that's pretty much what they said. They were like, dude, like you used everything in that gym. Like everything. And I never walked inside the gym. So I never walked inside where like the regular
traditional
dumbbells
stuff
and
is,
stuff. I was like,
the machines
that's not
are
me.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm very physically in shape, but I'm not the big guy. I'm not, you know, like, and I knew that off of filming already. Yeah. Because we had shot some videos before and I was like, this is lame, bro. Like, I'm doing bicep curls and chest, but I'm not a big guy. Like, that's what makes you look at it.
Right.
So, like, let me go in my world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You found your lane and that's what made you you. So, your life changed after that. How did it change?
Bro, it changed, bro. Because, like, I got with them. They launched that video. They loved it. Then they flew me out to Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
Now, mind you, at this time, the girl that I was with had left me. I had this is the last time and the last time that it will ever happen. I lost everything. So I was in the small apartment. I was dating this girl. She decided she ended up getting pregnant. And to me, that was like my biggest goal in life was to be a dad. After everything I've kind of gone through, I was like, yo, I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to be the best dad ever.
Yeah.
And I came home one day and she was like, I just don't think this is going to work. You know? And it was the biggest blow because it was like, I don't think this is going to work because I don't believe in you.
So she didn't think that you and her were going to work, not her and her having the baby? Is that what you're saying?
Didn't think
she didn't believe in him.
Yeah, she just like, you have a lot of pipe dreams.
Yeah.
Like you constantly say like, oh, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. Like, but when do you like get to the point where like, why don't you just go get a regular job? Why don't you just like do something like, cause like you're constantly filming, you're constantly trying to do something. And like, I don't think it's going to work for you, yo. And that was like, not only her leaving with like being with my child, but you telling me straight to my face, like, just don't believe in you.
Yeah.
It wrecked me, dude. It shattered me. Like I stopped working. I stopped training. I mean, like I was showing up to training sessions, like no sleep, like just, and they, like my clients are like, yo, Quest, like we can't pay for this. You know what I mean? And I was like, I don't care if you do.
Wow.
Who cares? You know, I defaulted on my rent. Like the lady loved me too. She was such a sweet lady. She was like, Quest, like, can I do something to help you? But like, you have to pay. And I was like, just evict me. I was like, who cares? You know, at that point, like that was my final, like to have a family, you know, and in my mind, a family was like, I have the girl, I have my son, I work hard. I have something I've never had my whole life. And I protect my son. He never has to go through what I went through. So when that all crumbled, I just blow up the world.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, blow it up. And so I had lost everything and went back to essentially being homeless.
Wow.
Like,
and this is after the ASRV thing.
No, this is right before it. Okay. So this is the crazy part.
Wow.
So my boy, like I cannot give him enough credit. Talon was like, dude, you're just not going to give up on yourself. I don't care. Like we were shooting at the laundromat. Like, you know what I mean? Like my car didn't work. my car was completely busted. So he was like, what are you doing now? And I was like, well, at least I have been here long enough to at least know people, you know, and I didn't want to outstay my welcome. So I won't say at that point I was homeless. I was couch surfing hard. You know, I was like, okay, I know enough people, but I was also like I was completely dealing with manic depressive at that state still. Yeah. So like I was spiraling hard, you know what I mean? And then my guy let me stay at his place for a little bit. Shout out to the Dream. Miss you always, man. Rest in peace. But like he let me stay there, and I had another buddy that actually let me finally move in, and I met my current girlfriend now. Had nothing, absolutely nothing, and this was in January, February, March, April.
Wow.
Is when I got my break with ASRV.
Wow.
So it was like 4 months later, and they didn't know. They didn't know that like I had nothing. Yeah. Like literally nothing. And so the first one was free. I had to like borrow money to get out to Costa Mesa, get a ride. The girl that I'm with now, Sophie, she drove me all the way out there. Wow. Like she's borderline crazy too, because I had absolutely nothing. And I was like, yo, like drive me here. Oh, can you pick me up here? Hey, like I'm kind of hungry, you know, like she rocked with me. Wow. And so that gave me the catapult, and then they loved it. They brought me out to Portland. I brought Sophie with me. Okay. And I did a full campaign out there. So it was like a full campaign for 3 days. And at that time, they paid me very well. Yeah. For like what I was used to. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. I was like, whoa, this is awesome. Put me in a hotel, took care of my food, took care of my flights, you know, like everything. And I was like, whoa, dude, like this is this happening right now? You know what I mean? Yeah. Came back, and because they're so stellar, and because, you know, JV is such a visionary and he's so focused on what he wants to accomplish. I mean, obviously look at what ASRV's growth is. Yeah. He just like the way that he moved my image. You know what I'm saying? And
you were all over the place.
I was everywhere all of a sudden. And it was off this one campaign. And obviously they had good reception. Yeah. And they were very impressed. Like, you know, like we were pulling like 14-hour days. Wow. And he's like, dude, you're not complaining about nothing. And I'm like, nah, bro. Like, are you kidding me? Like, this is nothing. I've been working for this. Nothing, This is nothing. Let's go. And so that campaign went really well, and then it just started turning into like, yo, hey, do you want to get booked again? Hey, are you available? Yeah, cool. We're moving to California. And I had like a real conversation with him, and it's funny because everything he said in that car ride in Portland came true for his company and for his team. And he was like, you know, just what's important to me is like I really respect your story. I respect your authenticity. And loyalty is big to me because I'm trying to build something big. And that's why to this day I've never wore another athletic brand. Yeah. Ever. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so when they moved to Cali, I became like the staple. I was like one of the staple guys, and I was the urban trainer, you know, and with their branding of tactical gear and all this like very new age looking wear, my style of training match perfectly. You know, why do you have 5 pockets? Well, I have my gloves in this one. I have a jump rope here. I have and it was like, oh, it makes sense. It's not just like fashion. Like, no, Jay and those guys were making something that was supposed to be tactical for guys that didn't necessarily fall into the lane of I'm going to go to the gym to work out. Right. Yeah. You know, so it from there, it went from maybe a little booking here and there. No, you have too many tattoos for fitness. Fitness isn't about tattoos. To like, bling, 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 bling. Yeah. Just phone calls. Yeah. Emails off the hook. Yeah. Like, yo, we would love to work with you. Yeah. And I'm glad that I did, because I had a whole bunch of fitness brands out of nowhere that all of a sudden wanted to work with me and do stuff with me. I was like, nah, man, I'm rocking with the ASRV. Wow. You know, and at some of them were big boy brands. Yeah, I'm sure. They were big boy brands. And I was like, nah, man, like that dude and that team gave me a shot when no one else would. Yeah. I respect out of that. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it dramatically changed. It set my career off. It allowed me to, I think people then went to my page and were like, oh, he's been about this life.
Yeah.
Like this is really who he is.
Yeah.
And my career just skyrocketed, and I haven't looked back since.
That's awesome, bro. I'm like in chills just hearing everything that you've been through, bro. And then through that too, you still kept up the design work. You still kind of do a lot of design work for a lot of different things.
Yeah. So I'm a ghost.
Yeah.
I'm a ghost in a lot of rides.
Yeah.
So I sit in on a lot of meetings, come up with designs. I make countless patterns,
right?
Templates, because later on the road, someone's like, "Oh man, we'd love to have like a pair of pants," and I'm like, "Cool, I got like 7, 8 templates right here. Like, you like any of these? You know?" It's just a constant survivalist. I think that turned into the hustle, that turned into the businessman.
Yeah,
you know. So like that's always been something, and now I understand that like. You know, people used to always ask, and the biggest question I always had a hard time answering was like, what do you do for a living? You know, like, and I would always kind of like feel like depending on who you are, I have to say a certain thing.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, no, I'm an entrepreneur, man.
Yeah.
Like I'm a purebred entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I have the story and the track record to like say that confidently.
Yeah. Right.
And so now I appreciate it. I understand the haul. I look at people like, you know, I look at people like my boy Scott, who ran Saint Symphony, and the scale that he brought it to. I look at JB and the scale that he brought ASRV to. I know some big boy brands. I've sat down with them, and I'm like, I think it's amazing. Do I want to do that? No.
Yeah.
I do not want to deal with that beast.
Yeah.
You know, because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But do I have talent to be like, hey, like, I can design.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And cut my check, and I appreciate it, and you take all the glory and all the fame, and that's cool, and I'm going to go over here.
Yeah.
You know, so it's been really cool, and I don't think I think there's people that make millions of dollars in one lane, and then I think there's people like me that have a whole bunch of
different ways to
little streams.
Which is honestly almost a better way. You know, you're
I like
not
it.
counting on one.
Right.
You're not counting on one source of income.
Yeah.
I think the coolest thing, in my opinion, that you're doing right now is taking just all the things that you've gone through, the lessons, the setbacks, the adversity that you've overcome, and you've poured that now into a community of other men and women.
Yeah.
You started something called the Wxlf-Pac. Talk a little bit about that.
So I started the Wxlf-Pac 2 years and some change ago. I went out. I went out, and I was it was post-COVID. Yeah, it was right after COVID. And COVID played tricks on my mind. I am not one of those guys like, yes, I did amazing during COVID. No, I did not. You know, so I was like, bro, like everything I'm working for, like, oh, we're not shooting. You know, like I'm like, what's going on, you know? So I kind of had just dealt with like not training as much as I wanted to. I was eating all the time. I was a new dad, so I was like, how do I manage this, you know? And so I went out to the stairs at the convention center, and I just remember putting it on a blast. I was like, yo, like if I can go through everything I've been through and bounce back 24/7 and have these heights and everything and still be sitting at my house and be like, fuck, man, I'm kind of like, depression's starting. I feel like it's trying to creep back up on me. What's a guy that hasn't had that type of thing, or maybe hasn't had the breakthroughs that I even had, right? And I just kind of made a shout out. I don't know why the name Wxlf-Pac. I have no idea. I'm not going to sit here and try to be like, well, it meant it.
I was like watching The Hangover.
Bro, I was like just about to say that. I literally was like, there's probably facts in that, probably. But like, I literally was like, yo, to anyone out there that's like a wolf that wants to hunt, like, let's get it.
Yeah.
Show up at the convention center and we gonna grind.
Yeah.
And like 4 or 5 guys showed up from Instagram. 5 weeks later, like 50.
Yep.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And it was no wait, no nothing. It was just like, show up and it was my way of communicating with people. You know, I knew a lot of men were going through a lot of things because you're with your family all day. You're probably not working. You don't know what's going on. I'm at the height of like, yo, is this like into the world type stuff, you know, like, yo, get in shape, everyone, you know what I mean? So you know, it's like all these guys came out, and then I also made it a uniform to be blacked out. And that was thought of. That was like, I was like, yo, how do I get all these guys from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, like, how do I uniform them? And I was like, yo, like, for me, I was in the middle and I was still battling. It's been years since I've ever dealt with it, but I can't say until maybe the last 2 years, like 2 years and some change, where I crushed and demolished that old version of me. So for me, I was like, yo, black yourself out. And they're like, what? And I was like, everything's got to be black. And people are like, why? And I was like, because this is you coming in here as one. We're all uniform. No one knows how much we make, what we're going through in life. We're all just one. For this 90 minutes of working out, we're all just united. But then 2, yo, this is the version of you killing yourself. This is it. Like, you are mentally and emotionally and physically going to demolish yourself. And we were doing like 1,000 push-ups in one workout. Wow. With like astronomical numbers. If anyone knows if you know the convention center, y'all.
Yeah, downtown like, San Diego.
We were like, people were like, oh, how many times? I was like, 50. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, we're going up the stairs 50 times. Yeah. I don't care what you feel like. And there was guys that were throwing up. There was guys that like their legs were crumbling. But it was so fucking awesome. I got addicted to it because I saw guys that didn't know each other. And like, literally, this is a true story. One guy like falls like hard. Like his legs just gave out because we're doing 50, but then I'm also telling you, come down doing air squats and jump lunges and all this. His legs just gave out on him. And I watched 2 guys that do not know him pick him up, and they finished. They didn't just pick him up and be like, oh, okay. No, he literally finished. Like, the dude crawled those stairs. Wow. And I was like, yo, this is dope as fuck. Yeah. It was like, yo, this is legacy type stuff. And this is not fitness. This is like, I got strangers out here pushing themselves to levels that I guarantee they've never pushed. And now it's not in a negative way. It's in a positive way. I've learned how to take all my pain, all my rage, everything, and I've learned how to channel it into a point to inspire people. That's rad as fuck. Yeah. I'm addicted to it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so that community, it grew and it continued to grow, and we were doing different challenges. We were doing like Father Juniper. I was having guys carry 50-pound sandbags. It's 5 miles up with 50-pound sandbags. Then you climb the wall. Then you get to the top. You do a whole bunch of like body weight stuff. Then you have to grab your bag. And then I made them cut it open and pour it out. And that symbolized like, this is your woes. You carry that weight up, and that's stoic. You know, you carry that weight. You control what you can control. But when you come down, look at what you accomplished. Now tear that bag, rip it, dump it, let it go. Whatever doubt, humiliation, like whatever you're going through, that's what that bag represents. Let it go. Know that you're strong enough to carry it, bring it back down, destroy it, and never look back at it. You know, so the community grew. My girl it takes a very, very special woman to deal with a man like me. You know what I mean? Like,
and not only like, obviously, like we're seeing you as you are here today. She saw you and met you at like
the lowest. Like the lowest when she didn't have to. Yeah. You know, she was doing very well for herself. She, very beautiful girl. She was courted by a lot of different men, you know, that wanted her attention. And I would go through, she'd be like, this guy's so lame. And I'd be like, he's the starter for, and And I'm like looking, and I'm like, my mattress is on the ground. Yeah. And you're buying dinner tonight. Yeah. And she's like, yeah, but there's something about you, dude. She's like, I don't know what it is, and I'm probably stupid. But she's like, there's something about you. I just can't get away from this like energy that you have. You have this like crazy belief in yourself. Yeah. And she loved it. Yeah. And like, that was the first person that ever came in my life that loved the fact that I had this crazy belief, you know? And so she was doing a lot of the challenges with me. You know, she was like staying up with me. She was like, so what are you going to do today? And I'm like, well, I'm going to, you know, wake up. She made all my meals for me, like all my meal preps. She won. She was supposed to go pro. Unfortunately, she broke her knee, but she won like first places in a whole bunch. She was in the bodybuilding community.
Okay.
So like that was a huge thing that we could, you know, communicate on when we first thing is like, she was like, yeah, like, I'm going to be at the gym for 3 hours. I was like, sweet, this is awesome. Let's go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she supported that. And then I was like, yo, bodybuilding is cool. But like, have you ever thought about like functional? Have you ever thought about like, you know, just endurance stuff? And she got into it. And then she was like, dude, it'd be dope if we had some girls. And I was like, screw it. Let's do it. Let's call it female division. We'll have male division. Excuse me. We'll have female division. And, female division took off.
Wow.
Like a whole bunch of girls. And she had that branding, you know, she was like, you know, F rah rah, like be the baddest bitch. And that doesn't mean like going around. That means like be something, like be ferocious. You know what I mean? And so many girls came out that I was like, oh damn. Like there's a lot of girls that are looking for this. Like, I don't want the like patty cake. I want to grind.
Right.
Yeah. And it just turned into a community now.
Yeah, and how cool that you guys get to do that together.
Oh, dude, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and she's believed in you that whole. Dude, that's awesome, man. Dude, I just like. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to this like a couple more times just to soak in everything, dude. I mean, just your story has just been so inspiring for me, and you know, we have some mutual friends and that's kind of the way that I heard about you and we got connected, and just hearing your story from them and obviously getting to hear it from you, it's just been awesome, bro. I really appreciate your time you're and coming on here. If people are gonna find you on social media, what's the best way to do that?
Just my name.
Quest Hawk, baby. Quest Hawk.
There it is.
Dude, he's got one of the sickest Instagrams I think I've ever seen.
Dude, it is pretty sick.
I've showed you, but like, just you got to check it out. That's all I'm gonna say.
Appreciate it.
You got to check it out. You got to check out his stuff. Dude, really appreciate your time, man. Dude,
Thank you, guys.
I appreciate the vulnerability. You know, going back into those things. I know that's not easy to relive some of those things. So, really appreciate you, bro. And we'll have to do it again sometime soon.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you guys.
Thanks, my brother. Thank you.